masters and creatives to the World Builders Tavern. Today we are talking about This Is How You Lose the Time War. So be warned, if you have not read this, there will be all of the spoilers in this episode. But you should grab an ale and pull up a chair anyway. I'm Emma, your friendly barkeep, along with Allison.
Hello.
And Christiana.
Hi.
And we are so happy to have you here. Cheers!
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 So, This Is How You Lose the Time War is a 2019 science fiction novella by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. The novel follows rival agents Red and Blue as they weave through time to fight a time war waged on behalf of the Agency and Garden, respectively. They begin leaving taunting letters to each other, which slowly develop into flirtation and then love. We love an enemies to lover trope. When Red's commanding officer detects the interaction between Red and Blue, she forces Red to send Blue a message that will kill Blue when it is red. After Blue is killed, Red time travels to Blue's childhood to give her immunity to the poison message, allowing her to survive. One of the cool things about this novella is that Red's letters were written entirely by Gladstone and Blue's by El-Mohtar, although they wrote a general outline beforehand, so they each sort of inhabited one of these characters and then wrote their reactions and genuine emotional responses, which is a super cool way to write a novella.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think of this novella?
I actually didn't realize it was written by two people until after I finished reading it. And then I looked at the
You know
cover and I
what?
was like, oh, that's cool.
I paused while reading it to confirm because I got that. I knew that there were two authors and I was like, okay, this is the hunch that I'm getting. This is kind of how I'm feeling it. And I paused, flipped to another tab and was quickly like,
what a
is this
fun
true?
way to write a novel.
Yeah.
And the format works really well for that because it's like chapter from character's perspective, then letter, then chapter, then letter, right? This isn't a book I don't know if I would have read without Bigolas Dickolas's recommendation.
Oh.
If anyone doesn't know what that means, a fan of Trigun, who runs like a Trigun fan account on Twitter, posted how much he loved this book. And then his post went viral, and now everyone knows his name, and it's really funny and amazing.
What
and
is Trigun the manga?
It's an anime.
Oh, okay, so he's a completely separate account, and then made a fan post about this book. That's hilarious.
Yeah, just a random thing about how much he loved this book, and then everyone.
I think it was like the fervor behind the tweet. You know what I mean? Like it's every once in a while you just.
But I read the tweet and I was like, I see tweets like this all the time. Like, why did this one go? I don't know.
I think it's just honestly so there's 7 kind of like newsworthy characteristics when you're pitching something, and one of them is the bizarre. So the idea of someone with a Twitter account dedicated to a manga named Bigolas Dickolas tweeting about this random sci-fi novella being like, I love it so much, is just really funny.
And I think everyone's just talking. So now everyone knows he's famous now. It was really funny. I saw a tweet. It was either from Blackstones or Waterstones, which is one of the big bookstore chains in the UK, had posted a picture of like a sticker that they designed that says recommended by Bigolas Dickolas.
Oh,
and I'm like,
goodness.
I really want this to be real. I hope it was real. I don't know.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. So anyway, I don't know if I would have picked this up because it's you can tell it's a little more like literary type of book, which isn't really my style. But I really liked it.
I love a literary sci-fi or fantasy book. That just like that blend for me is just so good.
Yeah, and it falls into okay, so that's why I love Jeff Vandermeer so much, because I feel kind of the same with his writing, where it's super weird, it's kind of literary, but it's still sci-fi or fantasy and just generally kind of bizarre. So when I read the description of this, I was like, this is probably something I would enjoy, like because I like weird stuff. The weirder something is, the more intrigued I am by it. And I was not let down by this novella at all. I saw the plot was ruined for me by TikTok because it was popular on there for a while. So like I knew what was going to happen, but I still read it and just could not stop reading. And I powered through it in one sitting because it was so good. It was so good.
I'm actually excited to talk about the world building because for a while I was, well, yeah, that's, but for a while I was wrestling with myself while reading it because I wanted to know more of the world building because there's a time war going on and like, why is there a war? What's causing the war? Why are they fighting the war? Mm-hmm. But the book doesn't answer those because it's not concerned with that. That's not the point of the book. It's concerned with red and blue and their relationship, and the time war and everything else is just a fun little backdrop, which is very unusual. I don't know if we've talked about anything like this on the podcast before.
Yeah, but I think it's a weirdly meta example of world building because you fall in love with these characters in this really complex world. Mm-hmm. And they themselves, through their letters, acknowledge my purpose was the time war, but now it doesn't matter to me. The time war is just the backdrop of our love story. Mm-hmm. Like, this is just a thing that's happening to bring us together. This is just a thing that happened that allowed our love to thrive.
Yeah.
And that's so meta because when you back up and look at it as a writer, that's what so much world building could be, right? Like, there's so many stories that aren't really about the world. The world is just kind of the platform for this story to happen in. Mm-hmm. And like, I loved that part of it too, because I was like, oh, this is like breaks my brain a little bit as a writer too, where I'm like, it's kind of in your face a little bit about it, right? Where it's like, I'm not going to tell you exactly what's happening because it doesn't matter. What's happening is this love story right in front of you. Yeah.
Actually, breaks your brain is a really good description of this book.
I feel like I read some reviews of the book, and I think a lot of the reviews are also like that. Like, this turned my brain into soup. This brain, like, my brain did not comprehend what was happening. I was
It was really hard to imagine, like, the descriptions of the letters, because they're, like, writing letters in, like, fire and the landscape around them. And, like, their society is just so advanced that it's even hard to imagine, like, what the being red and blue is like, because they're like they're sort of people, but their bodies are very different. Like, red is part of the agency, which is a technologically advanced society, like so far advanced that she talks about stuff like, I have to not think the word blue because my commandant might like pick up on me thinking it so much, or there's just weird things like that you're like, you're not really human. What are you exactly? And you just don't know because the authors aren't concerned with that. They just kind of trail these little weird tidbits that are really interesting, but that's all you get.
And I think that's another really interesting, like, the format of a letter. It's also so true, right? Like, even if you're writing a letter to someone that you know very, very well. If I wrote a letter to my spouse who lives with me every single day, I could not capture every single thing that's happening in our lives, in our shared lives, in one letter, right? If someone were to read that letter, they would only be getting like these little snippets. And I think that was really intentional on the part of the writers, where it doesn't matter. The things that matter to the love story, the world that matters to the love story, is encapsulated largely in the letters and the stuff that's happening beforehand, right? Like, there's a lot of description of war and sneaking into things and hanging out with Socrates and all these different things throughout history and into the future. But I really loved that about it because it also made sense, right? Like, if this was just a flat out sci-fi fantasy kind of novel, I would be frustrated by the lack of knowledge. But because it's presented to me in these letters, I'm like, I get it. And I want more.
I really liked how this is a novel about time travel. And often when I read stories about time travel, there's always loopholes because time travel just doesn't work. There's always things that you just have to ignore. But there aren't really in this because it's not focused on the time travel. So there are no loopholes because that's not the point of the story. So I really liked that. I thought that was very smart. And I also liked the way time was described as like these threads that they can like braid all braided together. Or they can head up thread or down thread, depending if they're going back or forward in history. I thought that was really fun imagery. So they keep talking about like, I'm braiding together this section of history, or I'm like unraveling, because they're kind of like cat and mouse playing together, these two, red and blue, trying to undo what the other's doing, and it's just really fun.
Yeah. I also love the concept of that they're like trying to undo each other's work.
Yeah.
But through that they undo each other. I'm like, so poetic.
So good.
There's a line in the book that was that references like letters being a type of time travel in and of themselves.
Yes.
And I love that, and that like meta commentary, like Christiana, you were saying about like how writing itself, like as a writer, like just that idea of like, well, also like books are kind of time travel, and like, yeah, it's just that meta narrative. It's almost like our threads are also being woven into this like time thread thing, which is just my brain melts more the more I think about it, but like in a really good way. And like time travel as a trope is so tricky, I think, to work with in your novel or, you know, movie or game or whatever. And I think the trick is like you just can't look too hard at it. Like you're just gonna have to hand wave some things, you're just gonna have to squint, you're just gonna have to assume and hope that your reader buys into the premise, and then it works. Like time travel, there's some fantastic time travel stories that people absolutely love, so it's always cool to see a new take on it.
I think why it worked in this is because even if we take apart the love story and the love letters and all these things and look at just bare bones world building, it is so massive that even though the time travel is like the whole point of it, it's really the backbone of the story, it's so bizarre. And they acknowledge that there are different threads of the same story, right? Like they go on this, there's like a whole chapter dedicated to how much they hate Atlantis, because they're like, oh, every single version of Atlantis is such a pain in the butt and it's so annoying, and like all these things. And they write it into it in a very clever way where it's like, it's a way for the characters to bond. They both hate Atlantis, right? But they're also acknowledging like the messiness of time travel and the fact that they made it so messy, you don't question it. You're like, okay, there's like 50 different Atlantises. Great. Move on. I'm not going to think too hard about it. Yeah.
I also liked how Blue talks about how in some universes Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy, and in some universes it's a comedy. And she's watching the play in one chapter, and then she leaves before the end.
Which is like, know what it is.
It's another like meta sort of suggestion that like she doesn't know how her own story is going to end, because their love story is very Romeo and Juliet. Like
it is.
They are part of these two different factions that are warring against each other, and then it ends with one of them dying in quotation marks with poison. So
there's also a quote that I highlighted and I kept saved in my phone specifically because it was another meta thing where like this book feels like a love letter to the process of writing in many ways. And when they're trading these letters, they know that they might get caught, kind of thing, and like this might lead to their destruction. And it says, I think it's Red who sends a letter and says, "Will you respond, establishing complicity, continuing our self-destructive paper trail just to get in the last word?" And I was like, man, if that ain't writing in general at large, like, that was one that I highlighted and saved because I was like, I think that's what it feels like as a world builder and writer to be creating something. It really does feel kind of like mutually assured destruction in some weird way, right? Like where you're, it's really so beautiful.
Did you get a sense of Red and Blue's distinct personalities?
I did, because Red was definitely rambled a lot more. And Red was a lot more all over the place and kind of seeking themselves more. I felt that through like pulling things. They were constantly trying to reference stuff, right? Whereas Blue felt more self-assured in the sense of they would just state something, right? They didn't have to follow it with, as so-and-so says, or I've heard somewhere kind of thing. Yeah, I felt Red felt younger to me. And like I said, I think it's that kind of Red felt a little more frenetic in finding themselves, and maybe I attribute that with youngness because we've all been a young person at some point in time trying to find themselves.
Red was the one to say she loved Blue first, right?
Exactly.
I think she was. So that felt like very in character, like a little bit more like outgoing and younger, and like even though they're both like ages old.
Yeah.
And then, so Blue is supposed to be sort of, because Garden is kind of this collective consciousness. So I wonder if I think you get a little bit of that. Like, she's a little more like, almost that she like finds her identity as you go, maybe.
Yeah.
What did you think? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, definitely. I could see Blue in her. But she does talk a lot about the fact that when she got sick when she was young, she was kind of pulled out of the garden,
right?
Which we later find out was Red coming to give her the antidote, so to speak, to the poison, and felt like another person, a part of the whole but separate. And the one letter from Blue that really stuck out to me because I was like, ooh, I relate to that, was loving cities because she loves being in a crowd because you're still an anonymous individual. You're still autonomous on your own, but you're like a part of something bigger. And I think that letter really encapsulated a lot of her character in the world because I did feel that very much, right? Where it was, Blue was very like, I am the garden, I am these things, I am very sure of myself, but I still stand on my own as a monolith in some sense.
That's interesting because Blue is the one who starts winning because they're like in this match that seems kind of equal for a while, and then Red's commander comes to her and is like, we are losing. Like, Blue, this one agent of the garden, keeps winning. And so I wonder if that's like some sort of commentary about just how almost complete Blue is by being an individual and yet part of a community at the same time. I think that's interesting.
I really like the what's the word I'm looking for? Not trope. The structure of writing novels or stories as letters. Just like I think of like also of like Frankenstein and the fact that that's written in kind of so many layers of authorial authors within authors. Like there's authors within the book that are also writing it because it's just such a.
Do you mean Dracula?
Sorry?
Do you mean Dracula?
No.
Because Dracula was written as letters.
No, Frankenstein, it's not all letters, but it's like there's some letters and there's
there
like
are
a
some
book within a
letters.
book or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's like a few different layers of like authorship.
Yeah.
Which is just a very interesting way of like it makes you more aware of yourself reading something instead of just getting lost in the story. And I think it almost makes you. There's a lot of thought and talk that's been given to like, you know, readers or watchers or players, depending on what media it is, sort of being the finishing part of a story. Like the author writes it, but then the reader comes along and like finishes it with their sort of reading and interpretation. And this just kind of makes it a lot more obvious or a lot more active that you are reading something and not just getting lost in a story and being carried along by it, which I find always kind of weird. It hurts my brain a little bit because it's a lot more active reading. I'm not just getting lost in a story.
Yeah, you do. I did find with this story that I felt like I was more of an active participant. Like I felt like I was the one unfurling the letters to read them, kind of thing, right? Like I was like so excited. I could really feel the character's excitement because I also knew that with the letter would come like more of the story and more of the world, and you would unlock a lot more. But that's also exactly what the character was feeling. Like it really felt like kind of sliding into a second skin. So.
And also what the author was feeling, because they wrote the letters as the characters to each other, and so they didn't know what they were getting until the other author read the letter from the other person. So it's just so many layers of like people getting the information that is very cool. It just kind of hangs
I just can't get over it. Yeah. It's so clever.
It is. It's a very clever book.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's become so popular. Like, it was even popular before Bigolas
Dickolas
won
endorsement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I first put it on my to be read pile when I was listening to Writing Excuses, the podcast with like Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal, because Mary Robinette Kowal had recommended it, and so it's been on my radar for like years, and I never got around to reading it. So it was fun that we get to talk about it now, because it definitely has earned its spot as a great piece of writing and world building.
I kind of wish I had found an epistolary. Is that the epistolary book for Proprietor's Pick? But I did not.
Epistolary, I think.
Epistolary. You know what I mean.
There we go. Yes.
Words are hard.
Yes.
I'm a writer, I am a podcast host now. I'm supposed to be good at speaking. But I did find a book that you might like.
Ooh.
You guys want to hear about it?
No.
Honestly, while I was reading it, I was thinking of your Proprietor's Pick, and I was like, ooh, Allie has a tough job.
I feel like I have a tough job every time. Yeah. Like, I say that every single episode. I'm like, this was so hard.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's fun. I really like finding comps. So, the novel I found that you might like is called Translation State by Anne Leckie. It came out on June 6th. And here's the summary. Gwen was created to be a Presker translator. The pride of their clade, they always had a clear path before them, learn human ways, and eventually make a match and serve as an intermediary between the dangerous alien Presker and the human worlds. The realization that they might want something else isn't optimal behavior. Is the type of behavior that results in elimination. But Gwen rebels, and in doing so, their path collides with those of two others, and a reluctant diplomat whose dead grandmaman has left her an impossible task as an inheritance, hunting down a fugitive who has been missing for over 200 years, and Reet, an adopted mechanic who's increasingly desperate to learn about his genetic roots, or anything that might explain why he operates so differently from those around him. As a conclave of the various species approaches and the long-standing treaty between the humans and the Presker is on the line, the decisions of all three will have ripple effects across the stars.
Ooh, I love that, and I immediately see how it connects actually to
there's some like overarching
idea of like not, we're kind of
but
like the structure of it a little bit, like the structure of the world, I should say, not the writing. But also the whole, like, I feel slightly different and I'm not sure if I'm fighting for the right cause.
And then the very futuristic society and LGBTQ rep, which I love.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the I could see the in your writing, like the pronoun is HIR. Like I find it much more realistic that in the future there'll be much more diverse, pronoun use commonly. So I love it when writers reflect that in their stories. That's great.
Yeah, and I think Gwen is their pronoun.
Yes, yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, it looks really good. So if you read it, you should tweet to us or email us and tell us what you thought. And maybe we're gonna read some books that I picked. Next season. We'll see which ones they are, but I'm excited for that.
We're going to have to fight about it.
We'll have to fight about which ones. Maybe we each get to pick one.
It's going to be harder to cut them out. We're going to have to fight about which ones.
I was going to say,
because I want to read all of these and talk about all of them.
It'll be less fighting to read something and more all of us looking at our calendars.
Like,
realistically.
Can we fit these in?
But with that, I think we're going to head to last call. So here are some concluding questions and thoughts for you to muse on when building your own world. Allie, what do you think we can take away from This Is How You Lose the Time War in our world building?
I think this novel, or not a novel.
Novella.
What's the word? Novella.
Little novel.
Is a really good example of using world building as a backdrop. Like, I think often people who love world building as much as we do, it's just want to fill it in and make it like really prominent. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if that's the book you want to write, like, go for it. Like, write the Brandon Sanderson epic of your dreams. But this is a really good lesson in how to try something different. Like, try putting it in the background and maybe making it more of a character story. And just, even if it's just like practice or a short story or something, I think it's a really good exercise in sort of understanding how to do that as a backdrop.
Absolutely.
Christiana, what advice do you have for us?
I think my advice would be consider how you're going to deliver your world building. This is a very obvious example. The whole story is written through letters, and that's the major mechanism for delivering what's happening in the world. But how are you going to do it? I know it's really easy and tempting to do just like an exposition dump at the beginning of the novel, where it's like the kingdom of blank was blank until blank until so-and-so came along and blanked kind of thing. Like, it's really easy to do that. But there are so many more intriguing and just honestly better ways to do it. And I think this is a great example. Through letters, you can explain how the world is working through two characters comparing how they perceive and experience the world. Right?
I think it's okay to do it in your first example, in your first draft, because like you need to know all that information anyway. So like if you want to like just blah it out onto the page that way, that's fine. And then experiment, right?
Exactly. Yes. Sorry, I should specify for final drafts when you're actually querying and pitching and stuff like that.
I mean, if you have the ability to have that all in your mind and do it in a first draft, go ahead. But I'm not that great at being perfect the first time. So.
That's also something that I would love to discuss with these writers about, where I wonder how often I find this a lot in my writing, is that as I'm exploring the characters, I come up with more of the world because I'm like, this makes sense for this character.
Yeah.
If this happened in this world. And it's not all super laid out at the beginning. I don't build a whole complete world and then plop characters into it. It's through how the world is presented in the story that I learn a little bit more about the world.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, everyone's process is different.
Yeah, my process is opposite. I usually start with like the world and then figure out what characters would be in it. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I've done both. My latest novel, I started with a character and then I kind of built the world around her. So yeah, I can go both ways.
That's also cool. And then I would say that this is a great example of time travel tropes specifically, but a lot of things in sci-fi and fantasy. And I think we probably talked about this before, but it bears repeating, which is you don't have to create perfect plot hole free unpokeable like stuff in your world. Like anything that you create in your sci-fi or fantasy world can have a hole poked in it because it's not real. Like dragons don't exist. Faster than light travel does not exist. So, but the reason that people flock to this kind of media is because we love it. We want to put aside, we want to suspend our belief. We want to live in these worlds. We don't care that, time travel creates paradoxes. You just need to have some semblance of internal consistency, have your characters buy into it, don't break the rules within your own universe, and then you can hand wave it away. Like, it doesn't have to be, and you also can just have it, this kind of ties into what's already been said as examples, but you can have it as a backdrop. You don't have to have 4 pages explaining how all the time travel works. If you just say there's time travel, readers will buy in. So don't be afraid to leave things vague and to just tell your readers as much as necessary, and then to have a messy, incomplete idea of how time travel works. If your story's not about the nuts and bolts of time travel being invented, you don't have to get into the nuts and bolts of time travel. You can write a love story that just happens to have time travel in the background, and that's perfectly fine.
We don't know exactly how blue and red climb or descend these threads. Are they literal threads? I don't know. Like, what is it that they're seeing? It doesn't matter.
No, that's not the story.
I don't care. Just let them kiss.
Kiss, kiss, kiss. I'm really glad that this story had a happy ending. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure where they were going, so that was nice.
It is always nice to have a happy ending in your media. Yeah. Well, not always. Sometimes it's nice. It's nice to have a break from all your dark, heavy media and have a media that has a happy ending. But with that, we are going to happily end our podcast with that. So thank you so much for coming to listen to us talk about this. We are now going to close. This has been World Builders Tavern. We hope to serve you here again soon. But for now, you gotta scram.
Bye.
See ya up thread.